Okay. Hey everyone. This is Rangadad. This is not financial advice, just the way I'm looking at the market. Bitcoin's had a pretty decent bounce. We actually had an options expiry, which I wasn't looking at yesterday, I think. And Bitcoin's since gone up pretty well. Something we're probably going to have to keep an eye on now. Like, I'm going to have to see exactly what their sorry, exactly what they're saying by this chart. I think this is the dates. So this year, August 17th. So maybe that's actually today, the options expiry. So the max pain at the moment looks like it's 58,500, which is quite low. To me, that just suggests that a fair portion of people were buying puts. And yeah, it's obviously pumped up a little. I don't know how real time this is either, so it's worth keeping that in mind, because this may have actually come up with price as well. But generally, the options expiring, or the notional value of all the options is fairly low at the moment for this particular expiry. I mean, 160 million, nothing to sneeze at, but nothing compared to the ones that are out here. Nearly $1 billion in value into the future. Not sure why people don't like the September one, but start of September. Anyway, so the options kind of look like they're actually pricing in a little bit of an increase for the rest of August and then potentially a bit of a drop. Yeah, and then up again. So beyond that, I wouldn't pay too much attention for now, but that's a fairly big value there. That must be OPEX, a big OPEX or something. So yeah, just something to keep in mind, that the market with crypto isn't necessarily the same as the general stock market, obviously, but this will start to come into it more and more. The Nasdaq hasn't started offering options yet, and I think they just had to resubmit their application to do so. So that could be a bit out. But once you start getting that, it's potentially something we can put on charts to look at the implied volatility of Bitcoin. That can be a pretty handy indicator for picking bottoms and tops as well. So look, at this stage, we're above that number. Could we come back down to that number today? Potentially. If it is today when the options expire, but it is a fairly low value there. Yeah, just something to keep in mind. All right. Start off with liquidity. Liquidation levels. Yeah, it looks pretty hungry for that level there, for the 60K level. It is fairly extended, but as we know, Bitcoin can go on pretty decent runs. Given how much was in the charts at this point here, so 230 million, this is a pretty decent value, 300 mil just on that one level. So you're talking nearly $1 billion of liquidations just in there, just on this particular heat map. I would suggest that's pretty attractive level. There is more starting around here. you can see this is one of the reasons why if you're trading I guess the more traditional methods of breakout levels and putting your stop losses below wicks and stuff like that, even on regular stock markets now, you've got to give yourself some room. And look, these people are giving themselves a bit of room below this wick. Personally, if I was doing that sort of trading style, I would actually be coming and putting my stop loss potentially at the next level lower or somewhere in there. Just the amount of times you see it take a level and then reverse, and that level, like just here, the peaks or this level here was actually just above this wick. Okay, so all these people in here that have gone, rightio, we're going down, I'm going to put my stop loss in there or my liquidation level. And it just comes straight into it, picks it up, and then rips to the downside. That's why a lot of the time traders get frustrated that it took out my stop or it liquidated me and then reversed in the opposite direction. It's because you've done the same thing that everyone else has done and put your liquidation or your stop loss at the exact same level. So that's why typically you want to, if you're confident in a move, you want to try and leave your stop loss a little bit further away if you can. Sometimes that means you will lose a little bit more, and that can be frustrating. But as you start to pick the directions more and more and the trade plays out the way you thought, then you should actually be winning overall anyway. This here, same sort of thing. It looked like it was actually going to reverse there, but kept going. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind. Getting some pretty high values in the chart now, which is good. Looks like the volumes are in the market still. So I think good signs here that we've had a pretty decent reversal to the upside, and it's not waiting too long to take liquidity to the downside. Like if you get a run up like this without much pullback, typically it's trying to clean up something above and then we'll reverse. Same sort of thing here, straight down, cleaned up all this liquidity, which is probably, a bit of a liquidation slide, and then move to the upside. But it's doing a bit better job of coming back and grabbing some of the liquidation points before moving higher. So I hope to see something similar to that over the next week or so. You kind of want it to be moving that way. And this would be obviously a pretty good level to reverse from. Yeah, might even come up into that level. That would be quite healthy. If we came up into nearly 61,000 and then pull back a little bit, I would suggest that's fairly healthy. Take out some vector candles in here as well. Take out all that liquidity. It'd suck more in and then rip to the downside to suck more shorts in and then come back up to this level. So that's generally the way the market moves. It's just it doesn't necessarily turn around exactly where you think it's going to. So that's where shorter time frames and actual TA, I think, comes into it. All right, so this is actually looking reasonably extended on the funding levels. Funding's actually been dropping as we've been moving up too, which is interesting. So it suggests people are, I think, I've actually got to do a little bit more research on the funding levels. I've been meaning to do it for a while, but it's just something I noticed that when these are all red, it tends to be a good spot to move to the upside. Like here, though, it can give an early signal. So you got to be a little bit careful. But, typically when all of them are green, it's a really good sign that you're going to come down. You don't necessarily have to worry about the last one, but if the last one's in that same color, then it is suggesting you're getting pretty close to a low. This wick here concerns me a little bit. Typically, Bitcoin doesn't like to leave those. It is only on a 5 minute, but yeah, it'll probably show up on. Oh, it'll still be on the higher time frames as well. Just because there's nothing that's come close to it on either side. So yeah, it looks like a bit overextended at the moment. Can go higher. So one last push into this order block, which is also a pretty decent liquidity level. That'd work out almost perfectly, actually. 60,250 odd. That would bring us up into there. So yeah, it'd take the majority of that block if it wanted to do it now. As I said, it doesn't have to, but that would make sense for it to do so. But it is starting to tire out here, starting to get a little bit of sideways action. And the fact that funding has been dropping, sorry, open interest has been dropping. Yeah, it's interesting. Open interest doesn't necessarily give you the direction it's going to go in either. I think it's just a total value. I got to look that back up. Sorry. All I'm really typically using open interest for is to look for decent turns on open interest, which could suggest we're going to reverse at that point. Then combined with other key levels, it can be useful. But typically on this one, I'm looking more at the order levels. The liquidity map is handy as well. And then the funding. So let's get into the charts. Bitcoin has had a pretty good day so far. The levels that we said yesterday, it basically bounced pretty cleanly off that 56 or just below 56, I believe. I'm just going to minute. So that was 56, pretty well even. Good level. I think I pointed that out. Oh no, I didn't. Not that one. I mean, we came into these wicks here. Sorry, the vector candles here. Didn't really claim all of them. Little surprised it didn't claim a little bit more of that, but it was a pretty decent turnaround. I guess the concerning thing is it did leave a little bit. There is a little bit of liquidity below this now. Vector candle on a wick on a reasonable time frame, 15-minute time frame. Let's just have a quick look at the hourly time frame. Just see if it's. Oh, it looks like it's going to be a vector. Oh no, it's probably not. Yeah, so it's not a vector candle on the hourly, and it's pretty well claimed half of this vector here. So, we don't. It's not something we have to come back to anytime soon. By the look of this, and by the look of this run, it's just a matter of if it does sort of wick up and reverse down here, how much are people going to freak out? It could be a little bit, but the other thing too is if we do look at the higher time frame, actually I might go to so on the hourly, it actually looks like we're forming a bit of a bull flag here. It's not, I wouldn't call it a great one just because it's not really, I like to see them fairly parallel or even pennant style, so triangular. This one's kind of a nothing at the moment. There is, yeah, it's not fantastic, put it that way. That was a bit of a fake out though, so you know, the point being is we're kind of in a range here. It is a downward, like a descending sort of range. Generally, a descending range after upside would be considered a bull flag, and it's just a matter of when it will break out. Obviously, there's two sides to these things. We could break out below. Now, looking at this on the hourly, you still got these vectors in here. You know, I think short term we can still come back down into that 55 area. There's a whole host of reasons why we don't really want it to go back below 56 again, but wicks down and reversals from as little as 55 is still reasonably healthy. Stochastic momentum's kind of, it's still very much postured to the upside. There is actually a bullish smart money indicator buy signal there. That's interesting. And volatility is still headed up. So this could actually run for a bit longer from here. And it's certainly pointed that way. But we need to kind of break out. I'd suggest hitting the 800 EMA on the 1 hour, pull back into this top of this zone, and then a reversal away. That would be very healthy. I'm just a little afraid that it might want a bit more of the liquidity that's down here first. So, you know, ranges are a funny thing. They can go for an eternity, it seems. Like, just look at the Russell 2000 on the daily and look how long the bloody ranges went for on that. Yeah, it's, you know, this range that we're effectively been in since February this year, end of Feb. You know, you wouldn't expect this range to last too long, but it still can have another move to the downside and still be looking okay. It's going to be a bit scary if it gets down there again, but at this stage, the other scary-ish thing is stochastic momentum has, well, what's that level? 32. So it did flip, not yesterday, the day before. Sorry, not today, the day before. It did flip that signal line, and it looks like it's still going to stay below that signal line today. The good thing is we're above the 200 EMA for the time being. You kind of want that to remain the case for the rest of the 4 hours of today. If we reject from that again, then I would suggest we are coming back down in. And even over the weekend, it might be a reasonably flat weekend, like not much going on. But yeah, last Sunday we did have a big pullback too. So just, I guess, keep that in mind. Weekends can be a funny one. It can be really quiet, or because of the low liquidity, they can actually move the market quite a bit. Or the market can move quite a bit. So I don't know. It looks primed for a breakout. It's just whether or not we get it this weekend. And if we do get that sort of breakout, then I don't know, I'd be expecting out of that a bit more than that, actually. You'd be up into at least up into the 63.5, just on that little move. But there's other things that we've covered previously that suggest 65 to 66 is more the target if we get a decent breakout. And it could potentially move quite quickly to that point. A lot of volume in here, a lot of volume up at the 67 mark. So it's going to be slow progress, which is kind of good. As I said yesterday, you want to see the market just slowly chopping up. You want it to build some momentum, not necessarily rip straight to the top of the range. Bit of momentum makes it easier for the market to break out. So let's go to NASDAQ. Not a bad day. It's not showing up as a particularly green day, but that's a pretty strong candle. Still got a little bit to go for the close, but if it can close anywhere above this wick, I would think would be quite bullish. It doesn't look like it wants it though, so it might be just running out of steam here, and we may see a bit of a pullback next week. Doesn't look like there's any major economic data. Consumer sentiment is up. Building permits are down. Down quite a bit on the forecast. That's interesting. The market may not like that too much. We'll just have a look at home construction ETF. Yeah, it got punished a little bit. I'm surprised it didn't get punished a little bit more than that, though, to be honest. Market doesn't seem to care too much about that building permit. So 22nd, so early next week, FOMC minutes, that will probably move the market. So keep an eye out for that. But S&P 500, again, coming into a key level at the end of the week. It's a pretty good run. Wouldn't be surprised if we get a little bit of pullback. But, you know, we don't necessarily have to. You look at these bounces from big sort of, where's that implied vol? Actually, I'll just overlay the VIX. So as you can see, VIX spiked into here and then dropped significantly. And then the market's never really looked back. I think we got the same sort of thing during the COVID crash. COVID was obviously a bit of a black swan event too, but you know, even then you did get a bit of a pullback and then kept going. I guess it's just one of those things. The market, it would make sense for it to have a pullback, but at the moment in the markets, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of moving parts that are pointing towards recessions, and there's a lot of nervousness in the market. I wouldn't call it fear, but there's a lot of fear mongering in the market. So, or fear mongering in the media anyway. So you got to, you know, I guess just go with price action. And at the moment, yeah, I wouldn't expect a huge pullback at this point, which should be good for Bitcoin. Equal weight, I'll just get rid of that. Equal weight, same deal. It's moving up as well. So while it's moving up at the same time, that suggests things are reasonably healthy. IWM's coming off a decent low on the stochastic momentum. Volatility is dropping, but it's still quite high. So it's suggesting we could see a bit more of a pump yet. Global liquidity is still coming back in. A little bit flat today, but it's looking okay. XLI, I mean, it's, as we said the other day, it's going to find some resistance up around here. And most of these things, I think, are going to bump into resistance. It's just, when everyone thinks that something's going to happen, it tends not to happen. And that would be, we've come into key resistance. Oh, we're going to pull back. We don't have to. We can just move sideways and then move up, especially after such a big liquidation event. Yeah, we don't necessarily have to pull back. XLY, XLP still recovering as well, back into this key level, which is good. A few confirmations above the 800 EMA would be bullish. KRE. So regional banking's actually had a pretty good day, and breaking above that wick is pretty good off low stochastic momentum. Again, volatility is decreasing, but it's not a bad level, really. I don't think it's actually fully closed that gap either. But big vector here, so potential for that to move up. And if regional banking's strong, you wouldn't expect a massive issue in the market. Home construction, as we said, is a little bit down, but I guess compared to the rest of the market, it has had a not as good a day. DJI gold's come back a bit, so it probably means gold's pumped up. Yeah, good move on gold. Cool. As it turns out, I didn't manage to friggin' buy in that extra bit of silver that I tried to the other day, but that's okay. I've still got a reasonable bag of gold there. This this looks like it wants 2600, eh? I would be expecting 2600 on gold. There is a bit of a trend line through here. So it may find a bit of resistance through next week, depending on where you want to draw this thing. But yeah, it's looking, that's a super strong breakout on volume. Good move, 2600 before too long. And if gold goes on a massive run and we see this pulling back down, so if Dow Jones doesn't go with it, essentially, and this breaks below these levels, then I would actually expect a pullback on the market, and a pretty decent one, I would think. As you can see, when DJI gold breaks key levels, it's not a bad indicator that you're reaching the top of a move. So it did actually break there as well, but a little bit of a black swan on it. Just a baby black swan. So VIX is still coming down. Skew is still kind of flat. So skew's undecided. No real read off that yet. So again, I'm not. It kind of plays with the idea that this might just coil sideways for a little bit rather than a decent pullback. So it might close this gap here. We do have another one down here, a decent one, but I would be very surprised if it drops more than that. Very, very surprised. I think we'll be heading up from here. 2-year, 10 years, pull back a little bit. So the yield curve. What's that? High yield junk. So high yield has finally had the breakout we we're looking for. Like this was a decent breakout, but obviously it got smacked back down in the drop the other day. So this is quite healthy for the market. If people are interested in high yield corporate junk, then that's suggesting a bit of risk on, which is another supporting factor for Bitcoin to go higher. Copper is finally breaking out of this box properly. Two closes above here, another close above the 200, and I would be quite bullish on copper. Uranium's still flat. Don't worry about that. Gold is breaking out. Silver looks like it wants to go with it, which is good. Silver will probably be the big percentage mover compared to gold. As we said the other day, I'll just actually put this symbol on. What is it? XAG divided by AU. So again, silver looks set to outperform gold, coming off a good base here. And if silver outperforms gold, you know, it can go on pretty decent runs. All right. If you look at the silver chart, go to the weekly. Pretty decent upward channel here. When you look at silver coming off decent consolidation areas, even if you take it from there, it's up nearly 120% over about a year. It's not bad for a precious metal. Gold can do similar things, but generally not as much. Okay. So one to keep an eye on. And look, gold moving up with the stock market is probably suggesting we're in late cycle. Oops, get rid of that. Where is it? So late cycle investing is typically going to be utilities and materials in particular. Yeah. General, the markets are looking pretty good. What's this? Oil. So interestingly, on oil, we've got a bit of a pattern forming here as well. Need to turn the magnet off. So we've got a bit of a wedge. If oil breaks out of this, it's going to be a decent move. And if it breaks out to the upside, which it doesn't look like at the moment, if this breaks to the downside, I would actually expect the economy to go pretty well. The interesting thing is typically oil will go down into a US election just because they like to have people paying less at the pump, makes them feel better, and they vote more for them, for the incumbent in particular. Well, not going to be an incumbent, but for the sitting party. So, yeah, oil could break down and we could see it back down around the low 60s. I'd be surprised if it gets below 60 on this move. But typically, before we see a big crash, you actually want to see an oil read pretty high, up above 100 before a decent crash would be something to look out for. I think that's going to show us the way. Like you see that one there, July 08, and then just a massive dump. And oil will dump if the economy shits the bed. But obviously there was still a bit of hope here on this run. And then, yeah, just dropped through the floor. But yeah, I think oil's probably got a decent run on it yet. I'd be surprised if we didn't see a new all-time high on oil, to be honest, before we actually got a full recession, like a full bear market kickoff. Which probably means we're going to have a world war or something as well. At this stage, I would suggest that's probably going to be what the market's telling us. But Dixie, decent down day. It's pressure on the bottom of this level. If we break below these wicks, it's down to 100, which could be pretty good for the market, to be honest. Means US dollar is going to be cheap, so people are going to be able to buy it and invest in the US market. Aussie Canadian's breaking out. Aussie US is breaking out, which is good. Japanese has had a bounce. Yeah, not a bad level there. It's come back into the 20 daily. Aussie Euro, that's good. Good for a holiday. This will be my last one for a little while, just because of travel and stuff. No new reads on these. Basically, all the indicators are we are reaching sort of late cycle, but things are still up. Percentage of stocks above the 50-day is still going up. Again, this has got a bit more it can move before we actually see a correction, or a retrace. I wouldn't say a correction. I think it's just going to be a retrace on the markets, but that's bullish. That's actually really bullish. That's a big gap up on that. And you do get big gaps up, but for the market to be flat and for this to pump a little, that's suggesting some bullishness there. Surprised the Aussie market didn't have a better day on Friday. It's probably a little nervous about what the US market was going to do, but it's looking strong as well. So, okay, let's have a quick look at total crypto market cap. Not as strong as Bitcoin itself. So, a little bit concerning there that the total market cap isn't sort of getting close to key levels as well. So that's something to keep in mind. Like it's hard to be bullish sometimes when you're seeing things like this. I guess it's more just getting an idea of how cautious you have to be when you're taking positions, rather than actually saying, I'm bullish, the market's going up. This session that I do in the mornings is just about me getting a general bias for where I think markets are potentially going to go over the next day, and getting the key levels of what I would like to see to actually confirm or disprove that theory. So Ethereum's still struggling as well. Ethereum really needs to break into this zone fairly soon. You'll see it's coiling a bit flatter than Bitcoin. No significant read on whether that's good or bad. Stochastic momentum is to the upside, but volatility is dropping off. So potentially a move into this channel, but it's looking like it may actually be rejected from that level. Just know there could be more upside in it. So, right here, you're at about the same stochastic momentum level, about the same volatility level actually as well. And you still got a decent pump to the upside. So what you're kind of looking for on Ethereum in particular would be a move up, decent move up, potentially into that 200, and then a pullback into this level, and then a move up again. It may pull back further just because the volume is here, pretty much where it's sitting at the moment. But I wouldn't be expecting much more than that at this particular stage, just based on where stochastic momentum is. Now, you look at this, and obviously you can have days where it just goes ballistic, 20% day on Ethereum, and you can stay in that higher stochastic momentum for a while. So, I mean, ultimately, if we get that, that's fantastic. That would be super bullish. I wouldn't necessarily expect it to do this afterwards. I'd probably expect it to pull back into the mid of the candle and then go for more upside. So CME is kind of, that's not a bad close on CME either. Would be handy if it closes above that wick. But yeah, the index is at a pretty good level there. It just really needs to break out above that. Just going to have a look at the shorter time frames. Oh yeah, that was a good breakout of that little descending thing there. Key level, just having a look at the pattern that we got going here. There's not any sort of major pattern that's jumping out at me there. It's probably still just more this channel here. So downside, and if you went like that, it's actually picking up a key sort of level there. This was a breakout, a retest, and then a fake out to the upside. So yeah, I think this is a good break. Pull back into that 200 on the 1 hour, and then another move to the upside would be quite bullish. You're going to find resistance again up around the 800 EMA, which is key level up here. A lot of liquidity up here, a lot of wicks. But it looks promising. More bullish than bearish on Bitcoin at the moment. Just have a quick look at Sol as well. So Sol's doing a pretty big ass bull flag as well. Somewhere through here. It's never as well defined on alts as it is on Bitcoin. Have a quick look at Doge for Brian. How far in are we? 46 minutes. Fuck. Generally, this is what it used to take me when I was trading constantly every day. Was about an hour every morning I'd spend looking at the charts to get some key levels and stuff for the day. Coming into the next bull, I'm going to be more sort of scalping, I think, but still going to be doing this each day as a setup. Doge is interesting. Doge doesn't look anywhere near as strong as Bitcoin, which we are in Bitcoin dominance at the moment. So, you know, Bitcoin is going to dominate the market for a little bit more, and it's actually what you kind of want to see. If we see Bitcoin dominance sort of making new highs and breaking out, that's actually a really good thing. That would suggest that the market is going into a proper bull run. Like, one thing about the meme coin season and stuff like that, and alt seasons that have come early this cycle, is that it just concerned me that Bitcoin wasn't really playing the same game. So good breakout here, maybe a bit of a pullback. So you might get a decent run on Ethereum and some of the alts. Or Bitcoin might just have a bigger pullback, and the alts are already at their accumulation levels. But yeah, we want to see strength in Bitcoin for a little bit longer yet compared to the rest of the market. But yeah, Doge, I mean, it's not super strong. It's certainly on the 1 hour, it's still got a bit to run, but stochastic momentum is turning over on Doge. I don't know that I'd be turning super bullish on this yet. I mean, if you're going to turn more towards a long bias, if you've got a hedge running, I'd start to build that position. I wouldn't go fully long yet. It's not a bad accumulation area though if you are planning to go long soon. It's just there's a bit of momentum. I guess pull back on the stochastic while you've got volatility dropping isn't a bad thing. What that tends to mean is you won't necessarily go on a big drop, and what you want to see is you want to actually see stochastic momentum starting to turn or already turned, and then volatility jump up. If you're seeing that happen, and you might want to go down to sort of the 1 hour or the 4 hour to see that. See, this is more the signal you would actually like to see, and this here is actually reasonably bullish. You want to see volatility increasing from here while you've got stochastic momentum just turning to the upside, coming off a decent base as well on a reasonably long time frame. So yeah, look, it's probably not. It's looking okay for a bit of a turnaround, but I would probably wait for this to actually turn properly. Yeah, it's a tough one because you can see what happens. Interestingly, the downside move never really got started until we had volatility increasing in the bear zone on stochastic momentum, and then it just stayed around there for ages. But yeah, it's a tricky one. We might get a little bit more sideways and down on this, and it's kind of like Bitcoin. We need to see decent breaks to the upside on volume, on momentum, and on volatility, I think. But it's sort of nowhere near as close to breaking out of sort of this descending trend line there. Not a bad support level though. Yeah, it may only be a short time to the upside here on Doge. It's hard to say. I was trading WIF for a little bit. WIF was actually the trade that I was in when I hit the wrong button and had to work my way out of it the other day. The one that I did actually work my way out of. That it's tricky trading the low liquidity big movers in this sort of environment because Bitcoin's not giving us a real solid signal as to which way it wants to go yet. So the alts can really hurt you. I'd wait for a pretty clear signal on BTC, to be honest, before moving with something like a Doge or a WIF or anything like that. See, it's come back a lot more. Sometimes they can kind of show you the way too, though. Because generally, if the alts aren't following Bitcoin on a move, reasonably close behind, then it may be a false move. And that's actually kind of what happened on the breakout on the CPI read the other day. Alts weren't moving with it, which was another sort of sign that the short was correct. I just fucked up the trade. Litecoin is still going. This thing's just it's like it's got a mind of its own. Absolutely mental. It does look like it's tapering off a bit now, though. Look, a break either way is going to be super bullish on this, but you'd kind of, after a run like this, you would expect some sort of pullback. Although stochastic momentum, the smart money indicators all pointing upwards on this still, and volatility on the 4 hours only just increasing again. So this thing's nuts. What a performer. It's just completely ignored the rest of the market. Unbelievable. What's Link doing? Link's flat. Yeah, look, it's kind of bullish postured still, but it looks like there may be some pullbacks before we really go much further. I think that'll probably do for now. Yeah, to summarize, need to break out of this channel. It looks like Bitcoin wants to break out of this channel, and I guess even on the 4 hour here, we got a bit of momentum we can still take out of this. Volatility is increasing. So that's a pretty good setup for this to actually pull up into these levels here, 61.5-ish, come back down, retest, and then go to the upside. It's just whether or not, if the general market doesn't, like if the general market has a pullback next week, then I'd probably expect a little bit, potentially even a false breakout here, just to suck the liquidity in that's up here, maybe even take these wicks, and then we could actually see the bottom of this channel again before we move up. And there could be fake outs to the bottom of that as well. So I think it's going to be a nervous market for the foreseeable future anyway. You kind of want everyone to be nervous in the market when it's moving towards the top here, because that's when it's most likely to break out. You're going to see a lot of people going short at the top of this as well. Where's my... So this top trend line, you're going to see quite a bit of sell pressure here. People taking profits, thinking, oh, it's not going to break out again. People are still going to be looking down below, thinking, okay, it's going down. You actually want to see that. You want people to be bearish. You want... The market just does the opposite of what the majority are looking at those key levels, typically. So yeah, looks good. Still concerned about this wick here, but this could, if this is the start of the bull run, that wick's not going to matter, because when the market completely tanks, whenever that is, that'll be swept pretty easily. And I've been looking at it, and I reckon we could come back down to these levels in a depression. So there's an early prediction for you, but within the next 10 years, if we get a proper depression, 17,000, 18,000 Bitcoin is probably going to be a good buying opportunity. But we are a fucking long way from there. Don't worry. To the moon first, eh? Yeah. Critical levels, wicks down, even wicks into the 54K level, I'm not concerned about. Daily closures below 55 and I would be a lot more concerned. But generally, some sideways and down chop over the next week wouldn't be a bad thing if we stayed within this channel roughly, and didn't break down. Then stochastic momentum will reset a bit, and if we're resetting into even that 0 level, that's not a bad level for it to actually then go for another leg up. Okay, and we come back to this. Even if we come back down into here, that would take us to the top of this channel on the next leg. So over a week or two, we could potentially get up to the top of this channel, and then another week or so of pullback, profit taking, sell pressure at the top of the channel, and then we actually break out of the upside. Okay, and it'll probably do another thing like this where it pulls back. It may even take 2 or 3 goes to actually break out of this channel and to break out of that all-time high. So all-time high is potentially around October, November, maybe earlier, but it could take a couple of months. Okay. Yeah, that's it for today. Hopefully that was useful. So overall, not scared of this at the moment, but there might be some more buying opportunities in the near term at a little bit lower. Alts will need to see a breakout of Bitcoin to really run hard, I would think. Unless you Litecoin don't give a fuck. All right. Have a good one, guys. I'll try and touch base a little bit while I'm on holidays, but it's definitely not going to be every day. Catches.